Hey guys, this is Trenton Duffer, sports editor here at the Daily Beacon.
And I'm Rob Harvey, the assistant sports editor.
Welcome to our third week of Checkerboard Chat. We are one night removed from the battle at Bristol. And Rob didn't get to attend because of some credential mix-ups.
Not very happy about it.
But I was able to attend, and I had a good time. It was if you've watched the Daily Beacon's Instagram, which I'm sure you have, because who hasn't these days?
Of course.
I was thrown off the field twice. Not thrown out of the stadium, just thrown. They told me to get off the field twice, so got in a little trouble. But in the end, it was a great game. If you missed it, Vols won. They ended up winning 45-24. And I'm running on empty right now because I left the stadium at 2 o'clock in the morning. The traffic in Bristol was horrendous, and I got home about 4:15, 4:25, something like that, and just immediately crashed. Like I was out in 5 minutes. So, but Rob, did you watch the game?
Yeah, I did. Yep, I've only watched it once. I'll have to go back and watch it again just to see everything. But other than the first quarter, I thought they played pretty well. I mean, I think it's promising to them that they can play that way, which there were a lot of mistakes, and yet they still win by 20 points. Like, that's a big thing. Like, they would not have been able to do last year. Hey, and a 14-point lead going in the fourth quarter, and they held on. They actually added to it. That's something that wouldn't have happened last year. But I thought they played well. I thought, offensive line still – they struggled. I thought it was interesting. Coleman Thomas started at center, but then they made the switch where they put Jack Jones in the game, and I think it was Dylan Wiseman was the center.
Yeah, he was.
And Dobbs had so much more protection, but they kept rotating. And when Coleman Thomas would come back in the game, it was like, all right, Dobbs doesn't have as much time, but then Jack Jones, and they'd switch it, and it worked. So, it'll be interesting to see this coming week whether Jack Jones will start and Coleman Thomas, who's preseason SEC, all SEC third team, will even get to play.
Yeah, it's their offensive line right now is just, it's just kind of like a turnstile of just getting pieces in, and it was hard to tell last night because up in the booth, the Daily Beacon Instagram and I think their Facebook has pictures of like my view from the press box, and it was like they gave us complimentary binoculars because it was impossible to see. Like you couldn't.
Did you use them?
Yeah, I did. Oh yeah, I used them. I had to use them, pretty much the entire game, and it was like I had a good, like I said, I had a good time, but it was a little difficult to see. But like you said about the offensive line, Coleman Thomas is.
He's rough.
He'll have a few plays where he looks good, and you think, well, maybe he's, getting over the hump, and then. There are some plays where he doesn't look, like he's ready to play at that position.
And it's not just him. I mean, Drew Richmond struggled on the end. Virginia Tech only had one sack, and that sack came where the guy just blew up Drew Richmond. And, I mean, they pressured. They came around the end time and time again. And you saw where Dobbs came over to the sideline and was like, you're good. Just keep doing what you're doing. But, and Herb Street said on the broadcast last night, and I thought a good point, Dobbs – and Sharon Jones kind of filled that spot, but Dobbs is going to have to blow up on him eventually for them to he can't just be like, you're good. He's got to lean into him and tell him, hey, you need to protect me because I can't be taking all these hits.
Yeah, and he can only escape so much with his legs. Last night he had I think 100.
He had
over 100 yards rushing. I don't know an exact amount off the top of my head, but he had over 100 yards rushing, and that was because he had time to find these little alleys to run through. And I think when he has that time, he's a better quarterback. The Vols just need to let Josh Dobbs be Josh Dobbs,
which they did last night a lot more. And I think another big thing that was the reason they won pretty handily was they let him run, and he made such good decisions on the read option. Usually they say, well, the reason he isn't keeping the ball is because it's a designed run play. Well, they ran a lot of read option, and he read those perfectly. And I mean, he had a lot, like the last touchdown or the next to last touchdown, the 27-yard touchdown run he had. That was beautiful. And I mean, he made a lot of good plays just with his legs, which the first game, he barely ran. Like, they didn't give him the opportunity, but they kind of let him go after the first quarter, and saw what happened.
Yeah, and I feel like that first quarter was kind of like they were using the game plan from last week.
Mm-hmm.
They were just letting Dobbs do his own thing, or not letting him do his own thing, I should say. And, they kind of just stuck to a game plan. And I think after the first quarter, they saw they were down. They said, we got to make some adjustments, and they just let Dobbs go out there. He had 2 passing yards after the first quarter.
Yeah, he was 1 for 3, and it was the first offensive play.
Yeah.
Threw a little 2-yard pass over the middle to Juwan Jennings, and then after that, it was.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
And
it was just he had no time. They just ran the ball. They'd run the ball up the middle and pick up about 1 yard. Mm-hmm. They kind of seemed discombobulated too. Like they'd hurry up after a first down. They'd hurry up to second down, and it was like they were going too fast. They weren't ready, and it was just bad. But after that, they just the turning point of the game was obviously the misplayed, the fumbled snap where it almost seemed like the wide receiver ran into the quarterback, ran into Evans, and Micah Abernathy, instead of just picking the ball up, knocked the ball 15 yards backwards and picked it up on the 4-yard line, which, Micah Abernathy, the 3 broke the school record for most fumble recoveries. He had 3.
He was all over the place last night. Just the Vols really have lucked up in finding him because is he sophomore?
He's a sophomore. He does anything they tell him to do, he'll do it. They tell him, hey, go cover this guy. He'll do it perfectly.
Yeah.
And, they kind of need that because, last year they struggled a little with that. And even this year, Justin Martin, 2 really bad pass interference calls. And
they were obvious ones, too.
Yeah, I say this a lot, but I just wonder when they're going to learn, to turn around. That's a pass interference every time. When you're running with your back to the pass, not even going to turn around. That first one that they called pass interference on 3rd down, if he had turned around, the ball ended up hitting him in the back of the head. If he had turned around, that would have been an interception. But you see the coaches on the sideline yelling at him, "Hey, there's the ball, turn around!" And he's still just running with his back towards the ball. It just I don't know.
And that's really that's not singling out Justin Martin. That's
that's Emmanuel Mosley does it. Malik Foreman does it.
Kind of the Vols have been doing for a few years now. And I don't understand why.
I don't know if it's size or if it's just
I'm not sure.
They just don't understand. I don't know.
Yeah. But getting back to the offensive line a little bit, you talked about Drew Richmond, and he really did get, just kind of manhandled last night. There were some tweets out there that I noticed that were saying, why don't we give him a scholarship? He's not worth it. People have to remember he's just a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, that was his second game.
Yeah,
ever.
Literally his second game. In the first game, he wasn't great, but he looked halfway decent. And now this game, he struggled in this game. But with offensive linemen, it's rare to find that one guy who can come in his first year and immediately be ready.
And even with he's redshirt.
Yeah.
And even with the redshirt, he still didn't get that game experience last year that some of those other guys got. And so it's going to take some time. And the offensive line, they did get better last night. They did. In the second half, they did play, and I think it had to do with that combination of putting Jack Jones is going to be a big help. And I think they really started to realize how much they missed Chance Hall.
It's obvious.
It's very obvious. There's a big hole, and once hit. I think he'll be back in a few weeks. Maybe Florida, Georgia probably seems more likely.
Yeah,
and you'll see a big difference because he, last year he came in and filled that spot perfectly, and so we'll see what he can do if he helps them out. They're going to get better. They will.
Yeah,
and I think having a game in between Virginia Tech and Florida with kind of I'm not going to say an easy game because we said that with Appy State and that didn't happen, but with Ohio, that'll give them some time to work things out, and I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I do too. Ohio's really, they're not going to be a pushover, I don't think, but I do think the Vols will, easily escape with a victory in that game. There's just Ohio doesn't have the weapons to keep up with Tennessee because Tennessee, they're a big team. They're not really that fast. I wish they had a little more.
Tyler Bird seemed a little fast.
Tyler Bird.
He had that one run. He seemed pretty quick.
Tyler Bird's quick, but all in all, the Vols are not really a flat out speed team. They're more powerful, I believe, and because Dobbs. Most of Dobbs' runs, he breaks a
couple tackles,
and Hurd is just Hurd had a run there. Was it the first quarter where he just run over?
There was 4 or 5 times where he just ran people over and just kept going. He had 99 yards, and all of his yards were hard fought. Like, they weren't given to him. He had to make the most of it. And, like, he did an excellent job.
Yeah, and, Kamara even is – I wish he would –
I wish they'd
had
give
a
him
bigger
the ball
role
more,
in the offense, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But I mean, he had that touchdown last night. He's got the iconic photo now where he's
smiling with
the golden grill, and I love that picture. By the way, I'm gonna make that my Facebook profile picture now. But Kamara needs more of a role in this offense.
He does, and I thought they would last night because Virginia Tech wasn't a really quick defense, and so I thought, he is, after he scored that touchdown, my dad sent me a text and said that he's the fastest man on the field, and he is. He's by far. And I just don't, the first quarter he didn't touch the ball. Yeah. And it's just like, when are they gonna? And this happened last year, the start of the season. Everybody kind of joked that Butch forgot about Alvin Kamara, and I saw people last night joking that Alvin actually went to the NFL. He just didn't tell anybody, because he's not out there. And you just wonder, when is they going to start giving him the ball? Because, Hurd can't do it all. Dobbs can't do it all. He needs help.
They can't. And when you've got that third piece who can, run the ball and be quick, you need that. Yeah. And I don't know what they're waiting for. I don't know if they're waiting for a particular game.
I don't know if they're hiding something in their playbook that they're pulling out for Florida or SEC play.
It just, from what I've seen from the Vols this year, it looks like something's missing.
It looks like they're holding back.
It looks like something's missing out there. They're holding something back. And I don't know if this is just these first 3 games are not going to be that bad. And then, once we get to, Florida, we're going to, open up the floodgates and let everything happen. Yeah. So, I don't know. What do you think?
They did definitely open up their playbook a little more. That's what totally changed the game is because they started, throwing those screen passes that they need to be thrown to Kamara. But, they threw them to, they tried to throw it to Kamara one time and he got absolutely obliterated on one. But they throw it and then they spread the field out. And, Dobbs kept the ball hurt. But then sometimes he handed the ball off to Hurd and sometimes, sometimes QB draw up the middle. They spread the field out so that they're, last week, Appy State just packed the box and blitzed everybody because they knew, Hurd's going to keep the ball up the middle. And so they actually did different things this time, and it worked really well. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like, they are just, I feel like they're holding something back, with Kamara or with one of the receivers. Preston Williams had 1 target. I thought he wasn't even playing, and then there was one. And then there was one pass that was his way. It was a bad pass. But, I don't know. It's just, their passing is just little simple plays, and when they've gone deep 2 times the whole season, and both times Josh Malone touchdown. And they're gorgeous passes and gorgeous catches. It's the same exact play both times where Malone just boxes his guy out kind of and makes a great turn right at the last second to catch the ball. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just you feel like if he's got 4 or 5 inches on the corner, which he did, and then throw the ball to him, throw it up to him. Preston Williams is even taller than him. He's going to have so much more. You haven't seen Jeff George at all. Jeff George is tall. I know they talked about him. I expected. You couldn't on TV. You couldn't see when Dobbs threw that ball in the corner of the end zone before the camera turned and it was Juwan Jennings. You couldn't see, and I assumed, he's throwing this ball to Jeff George because that's what they have him for. But he still hadn't seen. He hadn't seen any.
Yeah, he hasn't even seen the field, and he really stood out in the spring game, and so that's why I'm kind of curious to why.
Maybe he did some in practice.
Yeah, and maybe they're doing like we said, and maybe they're just holding some stuff back for the Floridas and the Georgias and A&M and Alabama. So I don't know.
It's promising that they can play the way they did and win by 20, but if they play like that against Florida, if they play like that against Georgia, Alabama will beat them by 30 points if they play that way.
You cannot allow Alabama to...
Alabama's defensive line is just... It's unstoppable.
Yeah, you can't let Alabama put 14 points up on you and then expect to come back and score, outscore them 45-10.
This is just not going to happen. If Alabama gets up 14-0, it's going to be a stomping. They're going to kill them. And, I wonder once they get to SEC play what's going to happen because everybody's all excited. Oh yeah, we play better, but it's still not what everybody has expected. What the coaches have kind of hyped it up to be. It's not like they still have a lot of work to do. It's a work in progress, definitely.
It is, and we're really hitting at the they're hiding something aspect, but you gotta wonder, because with a lot of these passes, you said that the receivers are so much taller than the defenders. I mean, to use a real life example, you look at Calvin Johnson when he was with the Lions. Like, he was a huge human being.
He made Matthew Stafford decent.
he made Matthew Stafford a decent quarterback. Yeah. And Stafford would literally just throw it up to him, tell him to go get it, and his hands and arms and height just reached in and got the ball.
And I mean, we're not saying that one of the Tennessee receivers is Calvin Johnson,
Gosh,
but if they do something similar to that, it should work, especially on a team like Virginia Tech, who has smaller, and Appy State, who has smaller people in the secondary, who they should be able to throw over the top to.
Yeah.
And they ran the touchdown play, and there's 8 minutes left in the half. Mm-hmm. They don't run a long pass the whole rest of the game.
Yeah,
I don't know if that had to do with the offensive line not blocking. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's still a lot of question marks. I mean, there were some questions answered last night. They're finding some stability at the offensive line, kind of. The defensive line is. I mean, I
thought they played better. I thought they played a lot better.
Like, they're swapping people in, which is good.
They played 10 people.
And that's good, but.
I don't think Corey Vereen had a tackle last night, and Barnett had 1 tackle.
Yeah, Derek Barnett had 1 tackle, and then kicker Aaron Medley had 2. I mean, that's a stat that's unreal to me. How a kicker could have 1 more tackle, finish with a higher tackle total than
Derek Barnett.
Yeah, than your star, defensive lineman.
Speaking of Medley, he pulled off his old trick where he hits the post all the time. Arkansas, he hit the post twice. He came about as close as he could come to hitting the post against Florida. And right as he kicked it, I mean, you could tell it's going right for the post. It's just... And they talked about how much he had improved, and yet I know it was like a 44-yard field goal.
I think it was
47. But still, you kind of... I mean, he has the leg, definitely. It's just the accuracy is just still not... I mean, it was straight down the middle, too.
Yeah.
It's still not where... it should be.
I honestly believe that if Aaron Medley lined up for a 60-yard field goal straight down the middle, he would have the leg, but he would miss it.
He'd miss it. Yep.
I mean, that's...
And he'd have the leg by a few yards, I feel like. He has a cannon. But
like he had... Well, cannon leg. But, yeah, he has the leg, and so does Trevor Daniel. And he's not really... I mean,
you say that, but yet he averaged 42 yards a punt.
That's true.
But it's for him. You expect
I guess
something
he
great.
he kind of spoiled us last year because he came in. And
he's still so very good,
and he is. Yeah. He's still amazing. Still up there with J.K. Scott in the SEC as Alabama's punter. For those who may not know. Scott's just he's kind of the standard for SEC punters right now, but I feel that Daniel he has the leg, like you said, but I'm waiting for one of those punts where he kicks it, it lands at the 5, and then shoots out
like the Georgia game.
Yeah, and then was it the Outback Bowl?
He did an Outback Bowl too. Yeah,
he
had some filthy ones last year.
He did.
Continuing with special teams though, Evan Berry, didn't play the second half. Was in street clothes. And they didn't really say anything about that.
They didn't,
which kind of is odd. I mean, I don't. That's kind of worrisome. I mean, you still have Kamara and Sutton. Obviously, they could put Sutton back there, but it's kind of worrisome not having him back there. I mean, nobody got a chance last night, but
that Virginia Tech kicker had, I don't know if it was the wind or what it was, but he would boot those things out the back of the end zone, and Barry really didn't get a chance. I don't even think he had a return last night.
No, because there was 2 in the first half that he didn't, and then he didn't play in the second half. So. And
a couple other injuries. Darren Kirkland went down with what looked to be kind of a bad ankle
it kind of looked
injury.
Like he just rolled over it, and then it just kept going. And I mean, you saw like some NFL doctor tweeted about it, and from the video it looks like he fractured his ankle and out for the season. But you don't know. And Butch said that they were all kind of preliminary sprains and rolls, and so and he was in a walking boot. He was I know he wasn't putting a lot of pressure on it walking off the field, but he was walking around after the game in a walking boot. And so I doubt he'll play. I mean, he'll have an MRI. He'll have something, and see if there's any ligament damage. But
I think if he's not 100% this week against Ohio, I don't think you play him
No.
because Ohio's kind of you kind of figure you're going to win that game unless they just. I mean, we said that about Appalachian State, but at the same time, like Ohio's not an Appalachian State. I feel like
Hey, they only lost to him by 2 points last year in their bowl game.
Yeah, that's
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but still, I don't think you test Kirkland's.
And you wonder if it's a longer injury, if it is broken, or if it's like a very badly sprained. You wonder what they're going to do because you saw Colton Jumper out there. He's the best practice player out there. But,
yeah,
you know,
I mean,
according to the coaches. But in a game, he's first play he comes in and he forgets to cover the fullback, and the fullback gets a 30-yard gain. It's kind of like, are you serious right now? And so and I saw people talking about it, and you wonder, and this is a lot of pressure since he would be like the commander, but you wonder if Cortez McDowell, you move him over and put him there. I mean, if it is long term, because he did so well in the Appy State game. He didn't even play last night. He came in the last drive last night when the second team came in, but he didn't really play much. And you wonder, like, I know that is a lot of pressure, but you wonder if Kirkland is out for a long time, if they think about putting him in that spot.
Yeah, and you can consider, because is Kirkland's the mock linebacker, isn't he, or is he the will linebacker?
He's the Mike, I think.
I'm not. Yeah, not 100% on that
linebacker
one.
positions.
Yeah, I know Reeves Maben and Kirkland are like the two guys. I can't remember which one's the will and which one's the Mike, but I think you could move Reeves Maben over to Kirkland's position and then throw in Cortez McDowell.
Yeah, because he is more of a leader.
Yeah, and I think, with Reeves Maben, he would be able to come in and fill that spot, fairly well.
But you can't have Colton Jumper out there.
No, I don't.
He's not capable of doing it. I'm not like. I mean, I'm sure he's a good kid.
He is,
but he can't do it. He's not on the level of SEC play. He's not yet, and I don't know if he'll get there. But he's not. It wouldn't work.
Yeah, and like I said, you could try out the Maben and the Reeves Maben and the McDowell linebacker core.
But it's still just not the same. Darren Kirkland, and you saw Kongbo tweet last night, talking about how much of a leader and how he is the leader out there on defense.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't replace a guy like that.
No, and Kirkland, he's really he's
just a sophomore, but yeah.
Yeah, he's just a sophomore, and I think next year he's going to start garnering some all SEC honors.
I mean, if it's not that serious, and I mean he ends up missing one game, I mean he still if he plays the way he did the first two games, he could win some awards maybe, or I mean just get first team, second team all SEC. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, this back seven for the Vols right now. Well, back six, I should say, because it's the two linebackers, the corners, and no, it is seven. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because they have the nickel back.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. But it's a really talented seven when they're healthy, and they really have the potential to do a lot with that back seven.
Yeah. And
another injury last night, LaTroy Lewis, he walked out.
He had 8 tackles in the first game.
I think so.
Yeah, 8 or 9. He started.
He started, and he's kind of a leader. I know when
he's a senior, yeah.
After the Vols did their Circle of Life drill, he was, and they all kind of gathered together, form a big huddle. He was right there in the middle, yelling at players and telling them whatever he was saying. So
yeah, he went down in the first quarter.
He went down the first.
With it looked like a lower leg, maybe, I don't know. And he was on crutches and a walking boot after the game, which isn't a good sign. So, and this is where that depth comes into play. They talked about it all offseason. Well, they've got, not only do they have Barnett and Vereen, but they have Darryl Taylor. They have
and they have Kongbo.
Yeah, they have Kongbo. I know they had Kongbo in there a couple times. They have Darryl Taylor, though. They have Kyle Phillips. I mean, they have other guys who can fill that spot and who it won't be that big of a difference. But you hate to see it for senior who played so well in the first game.
Yeah. To finish off, we'll just say a quick little thing. What do you think about the confetti falling last night?
I thought that was childish. I
know Jason Kroom tweeted out. He was like, we got a game next week. We didn't win the national championship.
Yeah, it's not. And they gave. I saw somebody say they're getting rings for it, and it's are you serious? It's the second game of the season.
I understand the trophy.
Yeah, the trophy's fine. Yeah, and the hats. I mean, still the hats did kind of look a little childish, but I mean, I still understand it. But a ring and confetti falling, it's just kind of.
And it was was great to see Jonathan Kongbo. He walked off the field and he had a helmet full of confetti.
Yeah, I saw where some guys were taking some confetti, to keep with them. But I don't know. I didn't really think it was a great idea being week 2, but I don't really think it affected anybody really that much. So I don't think it was that big of a deal.
Yeah.
When I saw it falling, I immediately thought, oh, this looks like the Super Bowl out here. It was just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. So just real quick, just a quick prediction for next week. What do you think?
I say 45 to 10.
That's about where I'd say. I'd say, maybe 41 to 13 or something like that.
I say Dormady probably plays the whole fourth quarter.
Yeah,
I bet he does.
I could see Dormady come in because the Vols will probably have like a 30, 35 to.
This
7.
is if they don't do the same game plan they did for Appy State, run the same 3 plays over and over again.
Yeah.
This is if they play like they did against Virginia Tech and spread the field out and throw the ball downfield and have Dobbs keep it. So.
Yeah, so that's all we got time for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back next week to talk about the Florida game. I know a lot of people will be interested in that one, including both of us. So be sure to pick up a Daily Beacon for football previews, football grades, football pick'ems every week, and we'll see you guys next week. This is Trenton Duffer.
And I'm Rob Harvey.
See you guys.